Welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. My special guest today, I've missed her. I was looking it up. We talked it looks like in February. And where have you been, Carol Connors? My
Well,
special guest today, legendary composer, singer, and songwriter Carol Connors. Carol has two Oscar nominations. She has three Emmy nominations, and she has two Golden Globe nominations. She was nominated for an Oscar for a little song you may have heard called Gonna Fly Now. It was nominated for Best Original Song and Best Music. It's that iconic theme song from Rocky, which she co-wrote with Bill Conti and Robbins. She was a member of the chart-topping group, the Teddy Bears, with the smash hit, huge hit, number one right all over the country. To know him is to love him, which was a catalyst for meeting and then falling in love with Elvis Presley. Elvis wanted to meet Carol when To Know Him Is to Love Him was the most popular song in the world. He had to meet the girl with that beautiful voice. And Carol tells the story of her love affair with Elvis in the best selling book, Elvis, Rocky, and Me. And in the book, Carol speaks openly about her relationship with Elvis, which lasted for nearly a year. Elvis became her first lover and then the first man that she fell in love with. On the night that Elvis died, Carol sat grief stricken at her piano for 12 hours straight, penning the song for her first love, Elvis Presley. The song is You Loved My Night Away. Welcome, Carol.
thank you. I'm really touched by what you're saying. Uh, thank you for saying all that. There were a couple errors, though.
Should I do it over?
No, 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 I want to say it. It
Okay.
wasn't three, it was five Emmys, and it was one Grammy, which you didn't mention.
How could we leave those out? Those were well deserved and earned.
Well, thank you.
I
I'm one
apologize.
away from being a EGOT nominee, an EGOT, because that's the Tony.
Right.
I've never been up for a Tony, but I've never done anything on Broadway either. Who knows?
Well,
Maybe my life one day. Who knows?
what are you waiting for? I want to see you get all of them. I think you never know on Google. We search for things and I've tried to get it all right. I apologize that I took away a couple of your nominations. That I, I should be,
I did work hard for them.
you did, and I don't want to take anything away from what you deserve.
Thank you.
What's your side of the story? Tell us we heard in the beginning there, Elvis tracked you down because he had to meet the girl that had created and made and sang the song To Know Him Is to Love Him. What's your side of the story? How did you meet Elvis?
Well, to know him is to love him, obviously, was the key to my entire musical life. Um, I was in junior high school and I was going into high school, and there was a young man that fell madly in love with my voice. And he said, if you give me $10, I'll write a song for your voice and you can be in our group. And I said, well, I don't have $10. I'm like 16 and a half. I don't have 10 cents. And he said, well, if you can get it together. So I went to my mom and dad. I got the $10. I'm very precocious. The song went on to become the number one record in the world, not just here. And it was 1958. And Elvis fell in love with the song. He was in Germany, if I'm not mistaken, at the time, but it was number one there too. And he fell in love with my voice. And he always said to the what they call the Memphis Mafia, those were the guys that were always with Elvis. And they said, oh, I really love, I really, really love. Translation, I really love that girl's voice. I'd love to meet her. Years later, I'm in a grocery store and I'm buying a carton of milk. And this sort of creepy guy comes up to me and he says, aren't you the girl that sang To Know Him Is to Love Him? And I went, yes. And he said, oh, Elvis would love to meet you. And I went, right, of course, sure. What else? As I'm buying the milk. Sure enough, I gave him my phone number, which you didn't do in those days.
Yeah.
My dad had been a jockey, and my dad lived on the edge, not a gambling man, but he lived on the edge as jockeys do. And I was my father's daughter. 2 weeks later, he calls. My mother answers the phone. Annette, there's a guy that wants to talk to you about an Elvis Presley. That's how my mother sounded. I love to imitate voices. Sure enough, I went with him to meet Elvis. My mother was horrified. My father went, let her go. My mother was horrified, but I went. Walked down these stairs at this beautiful home on Bellagio, and I'm standing there, and off in the distance is this beautiful, beautiful human being that had, I love cats, and he had the fluid movements of a cat. And I felt like a mouse. And he came up to me, and the first words Elvis said to me were, so I know, which translation is, so why'd you name the group the Teddy Bears? And I didn't know what to say. And I looked at him and I went, oh my God, it really is Elvis Presley. It really is. And I went, just want to be your teddy bear. And that started our love affair. And I went with him for 9.5 months. Didn't have a baby, too stupid. But that was, he told Charlie Fabre once, because we stayed friends after the love affair ended. He said, I went with beautiful Carol for 2.5 years, on and off. And I said, Elvis, it was more off than on. But it really was 9.5 months. And it was a glorious time. He was my first boyfriend, my first love. I mean, what can I say? You always remember your first. And he stole my heart.
And I can put myself in your shoes in some way. So that meeting, that look across the room, it feels like it was made for a movie. It feels like this chance encounter, this magical moment. Was there a spark from across the room? I mean, you two connected very deeply in
There was
your
a,
time together.
a spark. Oh, my kitties just came in. There was, speaking of cats, there was a spark when I sang him, just want to be your teddy bear. It was like, I think it was so, he thought I had a great sense of humor. And I think it was so outrageous that I would do something like that. And when I connected with him on that song and our eyes met, yeah, there was a
Yeah.
spark. And the song that I just sent you, called This Must Be Love, I'm Falling Off Clouds. That was how I felt when I first met Elvis. You went that split second, that as Robin Williams said in Mork and Mindy, the nanosecond, when you look at somebody and you know you're in love, or you know that something has changed. And what we captured in the song, Lee Holdridge and Terrell and myself, and then Terrell and Nia sang it because it just came out, is I'm falling off clouds. I'm dancing on stars. Because that's what you are doing in those first moments.
Hmm.
That's what it feels like. So
There's nothing better than that
nothing.
first, is there? That first
Um,
love, that
no.
first
And he was my
moment.
first. And that is the way I think of my love affair with him, was that I remember I had never really been in love before. He was my first boyfriend. And I was no longer jailbait. I met him when I was older.
Hmm.
Uh, I was about 19, I think, at the time when I met him. So, but, he heard me singing when I was 16 and a half. That because we cut to know him is to love him when I was 16 and a half, and 17 was when the record went on to become #1 in the world, not just the US,
Yeah.
France, Japan,
You
Germany.
were everywhere.
Yes, we were. And
Did you and
I have to tell you what Talia Shire said, because I went on to do Rocky. She said that, Carol, your voice was the age of innocence. And I think that's what Elvis may have heard.
Mhm. Did you and Elvis ever have a conversation about that meeting ever? Did you ever go back to it and say and reminisce about meeting each other for the first time? And the reason I ask is because I would imagine that most people that meet Elvis Presley or that meet him for the first time would be starstruck or shy or like you said, the guys that would do his deeds for him. Most people would look at him as this higher being, as this God almost, and you cut through the room and broke that, that first meeting, the nervousness of it or the awkwardness of meeting somebody for the first time, let alone Elvis Presley. Did that that must have made him happy that you sang to him
Well, you
and
got
made
to
it
admit that.
light.
Yes, he thought that I was so outrageous,
Yeah.
funny, and that I looked like, yeah, I think he had obviously met Priscilla. I mean, he hadn't married her, but they had, and at one point Priscilla and I did resemble each other, and he told me that. But I think that he just absolutely couldn't get over that I was crazy enough to sing.
And confident.
Yeah, to him, his
That's attractive.
but that was the only thing I could think of doing because it was like I was tongue tied, but I wasn't tongue tied to sing "Just Wanna Be Your Teddy Bear."
You melted his heart.
Um, he gave me a teddy bear hug.
Did you ever talk about that again? Did he ever say, I can't believe how brave you were, or how talented you were, or how funny that was?
He's
Did that ever
fun,
come up?
not brave. He didn't think of it. I think he thought it was just out of the norm and funny, and that
Right.
it wasn't just typical of what everything was. It was more like, oh my god, this she is so outrageous. Even at that age I was so outrageous, that I would do it that way instead of just going yeah.
Are
And
you still outrageous? Are you still that girl?
I think that I've become more and more that person, or have come into my own. That might have been one of the first audacious acts I ever did. But as I've gotten older, I think that, yeah, I think that that's always been sort of a part of my life, is that I'm not afraid of people. I'm not afraid to pick up the telephone because I believe that to be a success in what you do, you must always follow through. I rhyme everything. And if that means making a phone call that you really don't want to make the phone call, because that could be the phone call that gets you what you want. In fact, I'm the next book that I hope to do is I'm doing with Pat Riley, not the coach, my girlfriend Pat Riley, she owns Clientele, and it's called Cece's Carolisms, and the title is "If You Can't Cut the Mustard, Get Off of the Hot Dog." It's all about sayings that I've accumulated, my own sayings over the years. Because when I lived in the cave, I lived in a cave for a while. I had a cork board, and I would take sayings of great, great people, and I would constantly put them onto the board so that I wouldn't forget them. And now I find I'm doing my own sayings, but that was something that I did all my life.
Did they help you? Did they help you, do you think, in a small way with success in some way?
I think a big way. I think a big way that they made me realize some of them were so profound, the sayings that I was like, here's one. When you reach 30, you have lots of time to spend, but no more time to waste. I mean, things that, I look back 30, I was a baby at that time. But you
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? Things that had meaning. And
Yeah.
because I had hundreds of them, I would write them down and put them on my corkboard.
Did did one of those quotes that you can remember mm, travel from year to year? Did it stay up on the corkboard longer than others? Something that you live by?
No, because all the sayings stayed up. I never took any of them down. If I put them up on the board,
They were there.
I gave it great thought before I put them up, and they stayed there until the corkboard came down. But I remember lots of them, lots of them. I mean, here's another one that I've always remembered. Um, hold on a second. One day I had to choose between honest arrogance and hypocritical humility. Frank Lloyd Wright said that, because it always was whoever said the saying, and I thought that was so insightful. That saying, do you deal with honest arrogance or hypocritical humility? I mean, these sayings meant so much to me, and I think they guided me through lots of ups and downs of my life. You know, having the number one record in the world, and then thinking to
At
myself,
16,
yeah, at 16 and a half, and
who
then
can, I mean, to deal with that, think about that.
and
Think
then
about you when you're 16 and you have the number one song in the world.
well, and then you become what you think of yourself as a has-been. It was the most awful time and feelings, but I never gave up. I never gave up. I kept pursuing my dream. And I had my mother and father were so wonderful, because it was not a time when your parents would say, oh yeah, go do what you want. It was like, get married, live in a little house, have kids with a picket fence. And I refused to do that. And my mother realized that there was no changing me, that she was either going to allow me to do it or I was going to do it anyway. And she was kind enough to support me. So was my father.
I think most that know you, Carol, would say that there is only one Carol Connor in the world.
Thank God.
And they got, and
Barbie Benton always says that. Thank God there's only one
one
me.
Carol Connors. Have you met a Carol Connors? Have you met your match out there in your travels and your adventures?
Um,
Have you met anybody with the energy that you have?
well, I met, like I think Diane Warren, who I call the GOAT. I think Diane has laser beam concentration on what she wants and what she needs, which is to write music, to write songs. Obviously, with all her nominations, 16 of them, she is but she's totally laser beam focus. Now, because my theory is if you don't eat it, sleep it, think it, drink it, need it, forget it. You have to have laser beam clarity on what you want.
You've lived and produced number one hits and all the nominations that we mentioned at the front. I even forgot a couple of them. So there, you've lived through this, the entertainment business and the music business and the world rapidly changing and rapidly reinventing itself. Do you think that you have had to reinvent yourself, or are you the same authentic Carol Connors that you were from the beginning? Do you feel like you've stayed that course, or have you had to adapt and reinvent yourself over the years?
I think that I've stayed myself, true to myself, but I think that I have realized that change is not something to be afraid of and that you have to change. As you said, I mean, the world changes, the music business changes, film changes, but for me, the key is to stay true to yourself. You know, don't don't deviate from that. I really believe that. So on that level, it's a yes and a no.
Hmm. Let's talk about August 16th, 1977.
I was at
Tell
the
me about wh-
no, you
where
go.
you were and what happened and what you did to celebrate and think of and memorialize Elvis.
Well, I was at the Polo Lounge. Uh, in fact, Elvis had congratulated me for Rocky. He was so proud of me. You know that he was offered A Star is Born, and Colonel Parker turned it down because Colonel Parker and Barbara Streisand, it's in the biopic, did not, so they validate what I say, did not get along. And I believe that if he would have done the film, if he would have done it, he would have lived. Chris Christopherson played the part. And that I believe he would have lived because it would have given him the dignity and respect that he wanted. But the irony would have been that he would have been up against Rocky, and we were winning everything. It was just our year.
Hmm.
So that after that, because he had congratulated me, I was at the Polo Lounge in Beverly Hills, and I was in a business meeting, and this little man, it was the Philip Morris man. It was very famous out here, and he came running in, and he went. He was like breathless, and he said, "Elvis Presley just died. Elvis Presley just died." And the whole room had a collective sigh of sadness, just sadness. And I was uncontrollable. I could not, it's like I couldn't even breathe. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I canceled the meeting, obviously. I went home and I sat down at my piano at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He died, I think, around two something, if I'm not mistaken, or three, but at 4 o'clock, I sat down and I started to write this song because I don't know why I was writing it. To this day, I believe that Elvis had, I'm not a religious fanatic and I'm not into Shirley MacLaine and channeling, but I believe that Elvis guided me and sat next to me at the piano bench, because there are chords that three major composers have said to me after they've heard the song. Where'd you come up with those chords, Carol? Where'd you come up with those chords? Because I had never, ever written those chords before in a song. And I believe that Elvis was there. And I sat at my piano from 4 in the afternoon to 4 in the morning. I never took a bathroom break. I never petted my kitty cat. I never drank a sip of water. I just wrote. I couldn't write fast enough. And once I was finished, I've never changed one note, and I've never changed one lyric, one word. And it's the reason when Chip Rosenblum heard the song that this whole documentary started, of me doing this documentary. It's all based on this song, "You Loved My Night Away." And then Dahlia's been involved, and she's so wonderful. She came up with the concept of that from "To Know Him Is to Love Him" to Carol Shelby and "Hey Little Cobra" to Elvis to Rocky. It's been the key to my life, has started with "To Know Him Is to Love Him," and I'm now here at this point of my life with a story to tell, I hope. And the audiobook is coming out
Oh, I
July
know.
8th. July 8th. I'm so excited.
You're excited. We talked about that the last show. I think you were more excited about that than anything, the audiobook. Um, I'm going to give out all the information on that at the end here, but I wanted to go back to feeling that Elvis was there with you, that he had not left the earth, that he was standing beside you, or maybe keeping the piano bench warm right next to you. But you mentioned these chords, and I've heard you mention it a couple times to me in conversation, that there are these chords that you had never used before, that you'd never written before or played before. Do you think that he gave you those chords? And if so, what was he saying, do you think, through those chords? What do they mean musically that might be interpreted as Elvis speaking in a musical language to you and to the world?
Well, he was in my heart and my mind and my soul. He was there. His musical spirit was still there for me, And that's only happened two other times in my life. But I could feel his presence. And they're very emotional chords. They're, when you'll know what they are when you hear
Hmm.
them, because they're unusual. And it's like I don't know why I was playing them.
What do you think they say? Is there an interpretation, your interpretation of those chords that are very emotional? What do you think they're saying or trying to say?
They're trying to honor the love affair I had with him
Mm.
and that he had with me. It's a two-way street. And we both felt that way in those moments when we were together. And I think those chords, you know, you came to me, and with each kiss, and then it goes on, a symphony began to play the moment your love covered me. I think the chords in that section of the song are the heart of the song. That it's him and me, it's the two of us making a statement about how we felt about each other.
Telling your love story.
Yeah, because I did ask Joe Esposito, who was his right hand man, many years later, when after Rocky, when I bumped into Joe, and I said, because Joe was always the go between, and I would say, Joe, I said to him, he's passed away, but I said, Joe, did Elvis, every woman, I think every girl thinks this, did he really care about me? And he said to me, yes, Carol, he adored you. He just thought you were so special. He just adored you. And that was from Joe Esposito. And that was very important to me. So maybe in that night when I wrote the song, maybe there was unfinished business, and that's why he was in the room with me, and he was at the piano with me. He just wasn't in the room. He was guiding me to those chords.
Do you remember the experience? I mean, 12 hours at the piano.
It was exhausting.
Yeah, but was it a out of body almost experience? Something that you kind of like a dream state that you went into just
um,
and just
I don't know
flowed
how the
out?
whole song came about. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's what I mean. Do you remember it?
I
Without.
remember writing it. I remember feeling that Elvis was there, and I remember the climax. When you finish a song, and this is from every songwriter, it's almost like climatic. It's like, I'm finished. I have nothing more to say, nothing that I can change. This is it. And that's what happened. When I finished, I was finished. That was it.
But you're not finished.
Aren't you
Tell me.
sweet?
Well, I mean, and you're not finished with Elvis either. Tell me about this exciting Elvis week is coming up to
Well,
celebrate his birthday at Graceland. Tell me about this event that you were invited to and how that came around.
I was
He's
invited.
not finished with you yet, I don't think.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
He wants you back.
Well, I always say he may have left the building, but he hasn't left my heart.
Mm.
And when I bake my Auntie Carol's chocolate chippers, I put peanut butter in them because you never know, he may come by. I went to do the Cherry Blossom Festival, and I was in Springfield, Missouri. I guess they call it like the Ozarks, the Bible Belt, and I did, thanks to Roger Neal, who is the publicist for the documentary Elvis, Rocky, and Me, and the book and everything. He got me a CBS Fox News interview the day before the whole event started. A lady that is very involved at the big honcho, Graceland, saw the interview and researched me. It was on a Thursday. She researched me all weekend, called Roger, and said, we have to have her at Graceland. And that's how it came about. It's from this interview, and it was a very challenging trip. Oh, my, one problem after another, from the two names, I can't get on the airplane, whatever. But they booked me onto it. It's the week of August 13th. I'm performing and, excuse me, doing a panel. Linda Thompson is going to be there. She was one of the great loves of Elvis's life. And I'm going to do a book signing, and it's Elvis Week and it ends with a candlelight vigil because of the night of the 15th to the 16th, because he died on August 16th, 1977. That's when he passed away. He was born in January, but it's the 90th. He would have been 90.
Wow.
So I am going, and they can, if people don't want to know more, they can go. I think it's Elvis Week, or Graceland, and it'll bring the whole thing up and who's going to be there. And I'm listed, and it just happened because I went to the Cherry Blossom Festival. I
See,
never saw a cherry blossom, and I never saw a cherry blossom tree.
Elvis was your cherry blossom.
You're
He was
right.
he
I'm
was
not
the
I'm not going to go to that because there's a word of that statement I'm not going to. Diane Warren knows what I mean.
Okay. I love that. I love how you tease us on every episode, and now we keep inviting you back. We want to hear the answers to these these
Well, maybe
teases.
you'll invite me
You've
back
got
after Graceland.
so many good stories. Well, I wanted to go back to Elvis was up for the part of the A Star Is Born. And you said, I believe he would have survived if he would have got that part because it would have been the validation and the acclaim that he was looking for. Do you feel like he wasn't that he was still didn't feel like he had succeeded or in some way, in some personal way? Um, you know, was he, I don't know, it just kind of makes me sad to think that at the end of his life, he wasn't feeling like he had achieved everything that he could have or that he did, that we all love him for. Do you feel like he was in that state of mind?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that he wanted to be respected, really respected as an actor. He adored Jimmy Dean. It was sort of the pinnacle. He had such a success, such musical success, and that part he would have been nominated. I
But
just
as an actor, he didn't feel
as
like he
an
had reached
actor, not a singer, as an actor.
actor.
And I think that was the one thing that eluded him, if you know what I mean. It eluded him during his life. There were a few films that he did that you saw the genius of his acting. I think Kid Galahad, if I'm not mistaken, and Jailhouse Rock. So there were, but then you look at Blue Hawaii and this one and that one, and they were Elvis Presley films, but they didn't show him as Elvis Presley, the sensitive actor that he was in some of the films. You saw a glimmer of it, but
Mhm.
I think that A Star Is Born would have been the pinnacle of it, and that's why I to this day believe that if he would have done it, he would have survived. To use your word, he would have lived. You know.
Well, Carol Connors, it's so nice to see you again. I want to encourage everybody to get out and go see you in person
Oh, thank you.
at Graceland in Memphis, Tennessee. So Elvis Week is 2025. It's this August. It starts August 13th. Carol will be a guest. I guess the panel is a author's perspective on Elvis.
I'm not sure all the people that are on it. The one of the people that is not going to be on the panel, but he's so brilliant, and he's the one who listened to all my stories and wrote them down in the book. I mean, I could not have done that book without him. I could not. It's Steve Bergsman. I could. He's a wonderful person that deals with rock and roll people,
Hmm.
and it's very very thorough. I mean, he had me crazy, but he was able to put it all together. And from the book, now there's the documentary coming out.
Yeah. So, and that's going to a film festivals around the world, but
Yes, yes.
coming in Miami.
One will be in Miami, and I think the director is going to go with me, or the producer. The director is Alex Rotaro. He was quite wonderful. They came to play about Van Cliburn, many, many awards. And since I won't travel by myself, it's either him or it's Dahlia, and she's one of the other producers. But both of the producers of the documentary will be at Graceland. Chip Rosenblum, who started this whole thing, and Dahlia. They're both coming.
Do you have dates for the Miami Film Festival yet? Or
January,
where could I
January.
direct people?
I don't know. It's in January, but I don't
Oh,
know the day.
okay. Well, the book is Elvis, Rocky, and Me by Carol Connors and Steve Bergman. Go behind the musical curtain and learn about some of the most amazing stories you will ever read. You can get it on Amazon.com. And coming soon, Elvis, Rocky and Me, the Carol Connors story docu-film. You can go to carolconnors.com to learn more. And then Elvis Week, again, it's August 13th, all week long, and it's going to be unforgettable. It's from August 8th, excuse me, to the 16th. Graceland will be the heart of the world's biggest Elvis celebration, and you're invited. Join Carol and more in Memphis for a week of incredible music, engaging panels, thrilling contests, and fan meetups. And then you can check back on the calendar. New Elvis Week guests have just been added in the lineup. You can go to graceland.com, Elvis Week. They can't wait to celebrate Elvis with you. So get your tickets now at graceland.com. And again, Carol Connors will be there. I imagine signing books and telling incredible stories as she always does. And if you would like to hear more about Carol Connors' life, we did an interview, a pretty good interview, pretty in depth, I think, about back in February. So check that out if you'd like to hear more. Carol's got some amazing stories, and she's obviously, as you've heard on this episode with us today, such an amazing person. And Carol, I always look forward to talking to you and seeing you. And thank you for sharing the memory of Elvis and your songs and your music with us today.
Jeremiah, thank you so much. You are so special and you're a great interviewer. You know why? One of the reasons? Because you let the interviewee speak.
Yeah,
That's important.
listen more, and evolve.
Well,
That's my
Elvis,
tagline.
Frank Sinatra always said to me, less is more.
Mhm.
Less is more. And Elvis,
But you know, Carol, the only contradiction to that statement, I believe with that, but with in terms of Carol Connors, more is more, and you want more. We
thank
want more Carol Connors. Thank you so much
thank
again.
you.
It's so good to see you.
Same.
Okay, I'm going to say it one more time. Listen more and evolve. And here's Carol Connors, the Dolphin Song. I didn't ask you to do it this time, but we put it in here, the Dolphin Song. And the music for the show today, we're going to play right now. We're going to play that song that Carol wrote for Elvis Presley the night that he passed away. It's called You Love My Night Away. Here it is. Enjoy.